Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. Thanks for being with us. Today we're talking about the U.S. office market. Please welcome my next guest. It's Dave Brown. Dave is principal with TVSDesign. They do work all over the country, an architectural firm. They have offices in Atlanta, in Chicago, China, and Dubai. I can say it right. Never been there yet. Thanks for joining us today in Studio One.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And you lead the office segment group, right? So you guys are looking at and planning and designing office space all over the country, including large corporate environments. So, I think our audience is wants to know about kind of the current trends. It seems we hear that things are changing pretty fast, more people per space, but then we hear that companies are real concerned with recruiting and retention. What are some of the trends you're seeing right now?
Yeah, well, you're right, and I think the biggest trend obviously remains the same. We're doing a lot of open, flexible office space, and I don't think anybody's doing cube farms and C-suites too much anymore. But I think really mobile technology has had a huge impact on the design of office space, and there's just a lot more. There's a varied work environments that's made possible by not being tethered to the wall with a phone cord and a VGA cable. So I think you're seeing a lot more team rooms and group workstations. The individual dedicated workspaces, for the most part, I think a lot of groups are starting to reduce those in lieu of those collaborative environments. And where they have them, they're shrinking in size. I mean, densities are certainly going up in office spaces, and we see that in RFQs and RFPs all the time. In a suburban office RFP where it used to be 4 or 5 per thousand to park a car, it's now 6. And so that's an indication that they're just putting more people in office buildings, for sure. Yeah. Fewer drywall partitions, certainly, demountable partitions that are transparent, that allow more daylight, more views out of the space. Sustainable design and energy efficiency are huge drivers in the design of office space. So I think everybody's trying to maximize those, that type of sustainable aspect to get the lead point, for example. So that's a big deal.
Are you really seeing more of it? It seems like in the downturn, people kind of went away from it because of the cost. But is it back now where the economy's back, real estate's back enough that we can come in and have sustainable products in these buildings? I mean, like, we're in a very nice building here where our office and our studio is, but still we don't have lights that there's a lot of technology that's really not being used.
I think we are seeing it for sure. I think it really depends too. Maybe in some of the commercial work we do, the speculative office, there's not as much focus, right? But certainly in the build-to-suit stuff, which is the stuff that's sort of leading us out of this recession right now, it's a big focus. I mean, there's a priority that most of our clients are putting on employee well-being, and they want to be socially conscious and do the right thing for the environment. So yeah, it's a big driver.
What are they doing, if anything, for more people per square footage related to noise and related to spreading germs? And when sometimes it seems like somebody's sick, and then there's a lot of people sick at the office.
Right, like me right now. Well, I think it's a good point. We're doing 2 projects right now that are using noise canceling devices. So it's speakers in the ceiling that just pump in white noise. But you're right, in an open environment, you don't have that privacy, and so you do have to supplement.
We use that here. We just pump in Journey songs. So they're using that, but for germs, is there anything that in the design of the building that you can do there?
No, never. It's never, never come up.
Yeah, okay. Now, what about older buildings where you guys are going into maybe a corporate environment or something, and they're trying to make an older building work for today's workforce and trends?
Yeah, it's interesting. What's driving office building design more than anything right now are 80 million 20 to 30-year-old millennials, and they want to live in hip environments and urban environments. They want to walk to work. They want to be environmentally
Sounds
conscious.
spoiled rotten to me.
But the reality is that's a huge driver,
Yeah.
and they also want to. They don't want to be in dad's office building.
Mm-hmm.
They want something that a lot of these guys are running their own companies, and they want to be in an office building that speaks to their brand. And dad's old office building out, that insular building that sits out in a field in the suburbs just doesn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting, though, and I think, and I've talked about this before, is that if that environment, that urban hip environment's not available for whatever reason, they don't have enough space in the city, the real estate cost is too high, then developers and owners are actually taking the best parts of that and they're exporting it to the suburbs. And we're seeing that in some of the campus work we're doing in the suburbs, where we're literally building the infrastructure around the use. Atlanta right now is doing that with the Falcons. They're actually building the infrastructure around the stadium. And so we see that, we're seeing that more and more often in suburban office space, where the infrastructure comes, concurrent with the design of the building.
Right. And I guess you're having some issues when you're retrofitting a building, if there's more people per square footage, right, with your systems, your heating, air, your parking and things that your guys are having to go in and redesign?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is an issue.
Yeah. Well, it seems like I was talking to Mitch Rochelle with PwC the other day, and he was talking about kind of the office buildings around the country are kind of getting old. Like, we haven't been building enough new buildings. So I guess we'll have to get busy building new buildings. And we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we're going to talk about net zero. We're going to talk about sustainability and have some other tips related to the office market. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. Stay with us. We'll be right back. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you in part by your friends at Bull Realty. When your business requires proven performance, visit bullrealty.com or call 800-408-BULL. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. Thanks for being with us today. We're talking about the U.S. office market. We have Dave Brown here with us with TVSDesign, an architectural firm that works all over the country on office properties. And we're talking about the office market. And Dave, you mentioned sustainability is a big thing. And we've heard a lot of talk about net zero, which sounds like a Coca-Cola drink to me, but net zero, right? So very sustainable buildings, right, that aren't using utilities outside their own footprint, right? So is net zero really here? Is it here to stay? What are you seeing?
Well, it's interesting because we are working on a project right now that was envisioned as a net zero energy and a net zero water campus initially. Mm-hmm. And so that really set the design direction and some of the priorities for the owner up front. And yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, it's here to stay. I mean, it's not prevalent right now, but California, for example, has already adopted into the energy code a mandate that by the year 2020, all residential projects are to be net zero.
Wow.
And by 2030, all commercial projects. So, and it's all equally interesting. The California is the 9th largest economy on the planet. And so there's a lot of purchase power behind that incentive. So I think what's going to happen is it's going to spur technology and advancements of technologies that are going to support that mandate. And as a result, the trickle down, I think other states, there's still 7 states in the United States that don't have minimum energy codes, which blows my mind today.
Yeah.
But I think what that's going to do is elevate everybody's game, and then those technologies are going to become cheaper and more available.
Yeah, it seems like what happens in California kind of trickles down sometimes to the rest of the country. So I'm wondering when our ladies, our girls in Georgia are going to be as pretty and fit as the girls in California. That hasn't all trickled down here. Sorry, honey. No, there's very beautiful women in Atlanta. I'm just kidding. But you talked about this facility you're working on, that's for LPL Financial, right? It's
Correct.
in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Tell us some of the aspects of this new design that are a little different.
Well, I think with LPL, the net zero energy aspects of the campus were really big drivers early on. The net zero energy piece, the net zero water are some of the aspects that actually survive through design. I mean, that project's under construction right now. Net zero water simply means that the building uses it uses for processed water all the water it harvests from the site. So it's, in other words, it doesn't have to tap into domestic water supply for processed water, irrigation, flushing toilets.
Is it using
things like that.
rainwater?
It does collect rainwater as well.
Okay.
So net zero energy is that the energy used by the building is harvested on site. You know, that it's not tapping into the grid, and that's a little bit more difficult to achieve. It's not impossible. In fact, it's being done all over the country right now. But again, I think that with further advancements in technology that support net zero energy, it's going to become more and more possible.
Now, for a net zero building, how cost effective is that? How many years is the return there? Because I know it's got to be a lot more expensive to build.
Yeah, it's definitely more expensive to build, but I think, you know, if you look at some examples like LED lighting, for example, I mean, that technology 10 years ago was outrageously expensive. It's still more expensive than traditional fluorescent, you know, the T5, T8s that everybody's using in their office space, but you know, that price point has come way down. There's maybe a 20% premium now to buy the fixtures, but it lasts 3.5 times as long. It has better light rendering. You know, it's more controllable. So I think that if LED is a good sort of measure of where this technology is going and how advancements can bring it down, I think that, again, that's all going to trickle down into controls and HVAC and so forth.
That's great. I mean, we're in LED lights here. If you notice, we have a lot of light because we're in a television studio, but it's not blinding us. It's not hot. And yeah, they were more expensive, but a lot of savings. Well, Dave, we appreciate you being here with us. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, and thanks for joining us out there on the 42 stations, on YouTube, on iTunes, and the show website. Join us next week. We're going to talk about the U.S. retail market. Till next week, be sure that you always lead, learn, and laugh, and join us for the Commercial Real Estate Show. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty, a great place to do business. Xceligent, information for the professionals. And Commercial Search, properties for sale and lease. To access these companies or for additional videos, podcasts, and articles, visit CREshow.com.